Welcome back to the DG Hamblin Show. Once again, we have with me here in our lovely little studio, John Masters, who you have hopefully seen interviewed on here before. If you have not, take time to go and watch those, and I'll try to put up here somewhere a little link that you can click on. John has written a book called Blue Line Rogue. It's excellent, and it's a quick read. You can pick a copy up and read it in a day. And it details his experience beginning in Poulin and going through up until far more recently. So, John, can you tell us why you decided to why did you decide to write this book?
Variety of reasons, but I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when the post investigator who was assigned to my file review sent 10 pages of his notes to some lawyer who didn't even work for me.
Right.
Which it's public record. You know, I've said it before. Be careful what you type in Georgia.
Right.
You're a government entity and you send it to the wrong person. Well, sucks to you. You just made that public record. So at that point, you know, it spread from there. The lawyer was nice enough to forward it on, and that's great. But it got put into too many people's hands because this post investigator. Ultimately, it made it to a news agency. I really didn't want that getting out there, but it did, and which is fine. The unfortunate thing for the investigator, not making any assumptions about him as a person, but the entire 10 pages is one big, massive false statement.
Right.
So, I mean, you've seen the Google Drive. Everything he typed on there is demonstrably proven untrue.
Correct. So
I don't know why he decided to commit, what are we talking, 10 pages full of felonies? Because what is it, a paragraph of felony? We got to, I think.
It's something like that. You know, it's
I got curious and I wanted to know.
Right.
I found a different felony in every paragraph. I'm like, does this guy just want to buy my house or something? Like, what do we do? What is this guy doing?
So, do you talk about this in the book, the things that he put?
I am vague about what he put because what he put is so fantastical. It's I have a really difficult time, although there is factual evidence to show that he is, but I have a really difficult time believing it. But there is factual evidence to show that the post investigator that was assigned to my file review is a retired police chief.
Right.
So
yes, that's what we understand.
How that came about, if he is so comfortable. I mean, I'm when it got to other police officers' hands in other states, I got phone calls saying, "How is this guy a retired police chief, let alone a cop?" Like nobody.
Right.
It just the statement by itself didn't flow. Beyond that, the amount of just gross inaccuracies about the law, about what happened, about what occurred. And then everything else that happened to where people had these events on audio that they could listen to and went, but that's not what happened.
Right.
So they're going, did this guy, and then in the middle of it, he admits to trying to manufacture video and nobody would help him do it.
Okay, wait. The investigator said he was trying to.
In the middle of it, he goes, I went to this agency and tried to get them to give me video, and no such video existed. But it happened anyways. I'm going to document it.
So,
hold on. You just admitted this video doesn't exist. There's no proof this event happened. In fact, there's proof that this event never happened. But you're still going to type it up and say that event happened. Even after you just admit you have zero documentation to prove it.
Right. It certainly makes you wonder about his investigative skills at all.
Yeah, the omissions that were done, the amount of omissions.
It makes me wonder if he had any investigative experience, because you don't have to be an investigator to be a chief.
If he did, again, nothing against this guy. I'm sure he's a wonderful human being.
Sure.
I just don't think he's a good police officer.
Right.
And I did it in the book, and I'm going to do it again. I have to apologize to the public on behalf of my profession for these three individuals. I am so sorry, but Larry Wisenett, Frank Walker, and Douglas Dowdy should have never become police officers,
Right.
let alone be in any positions of authority.
Yes.
Now, I'm saying that boldly, and I know someone watching this is going to think, well, there's pain coming for me. I'm sorry to plug it, but
Please do.
This thing has been on Amazon since November.
Yes.
And no lawyer is even talking to these people, let alone touching it, because they don't. No lawyer wants to play with these guys,
and it's not like
it's already been proven to be untrue. So this book has so much evidence, audio, video of the events that occurred, and I kept it vague. I did keep it vague for a reason, because I wasn't trying to embarrass these three individuals. I was just trying to show the actual event. But when I say that this book features a trend among these three individuals, this is normal behavior for them. So I'm not going to sit here and say that that what they did was wrong, because in their mind they thought they were correct.
Wait,
what
hold
I'm
on.
going to say is,
okay, so it's wrong, but you don't think that they had any malice, or you're not going to allege they had malice?
I'm not going to allege they had malice. Once I read the 10 pages, I really honestly looked at, began to understand, based on reading these 10 pages, that the police chief and the assistant chief at the city of Poland, Larry Wisenett, Frank Walker, and this post investigator, Douglas Dowdy, are, they just shouldn't be in this profession.
Right.
They're I'm sure they're wonderful individuals. Well, it's just, I don't want to. I really pity them, because now I'm beginning to get a different picture, where I thought this was done out of malice, and now I'm understanding it was done out of more of sheer ignorance and stupidity.
Right.
These guys do not know how to function as police officers. And reading the 10 pages, and I shared them with you.
You did, yeah.
So that you would understand when I wrote this book.
Right.
The background of, like, I don't want to say this guy's an idiot,
but
this post investigator's an idiot. How did he think this was going to be floated? And I find it interesting that at the end of the file review, when the no action was done on post, the 10 pages have not been uploaded.
That's interesting.
So I think someone higher at post read it and went,
you can't put that on me.
I don't feel like paying for this guy's house, so let's not get a defamation lawsuit.
Right.
And then, when I wrote this book, I initially self-published it. And within a day, I got contacted by a publisher, and they agreed to take the book, but it had already been self-published. So the first edition is the one I did. Mm-hmm. Now there's professional editors. Now the editors who helped me the first time definitely helped, and the publisher definitely got me help with the cover.
Right.
But it's this first edition, you can definitely tell I did it by myself. And I take a lot of pride that I wrote this by myself. Now, I wrote this in less than 2 weeks.
You did. You wrote. I was surprised how quickly you wrote it. And when I read through your drafts, it is well written. I have read books from other people who self-published, and it was very clear that they hadn't written much before. Didn't have any, and this is well done.
The publisher, I think they were a little bit more motivated when they saw the self-publisher going, "Hey, this guy's serious. We need to take the submission seriously, and we need to purchase this book so that we can help him get a better quality second edition."
And it's still available on Amazon.
Still available on Amazon.
And it's not like you haven't.
And Kindle, you can buy it as a book. There is a hardcover coming. The reason why we haven't done a hardcover yet is because right now this thing is only 111 pages.
Sure.
The second edition's got a little bit more information.
Okay.
Post investigation's over. It will still be vague on purpose. And
Sure.
I'm trying to go back into whatever these guys did in the past.
Right.
But in relation to this specifically, and one of the biggest things that would be added is details of the post investigation, where when I was terminated from Poland, the letter that was given to me said at will. When he went and told the post investigator, who I later have now found out is the police chief of Poland and the post investigator are apparently very good friends. I haven't been able to confirm that 100%, but it is.
Right.
I have heard that they are very good friends and they talk to each other.
Right.
That the police chief of Poland had changed the reason for termination from at will to a completely different reason.
Right. Now, just to be clear and for clarification, because people not from Georgia who are unfamiliar with Georgia law may not know, Georgia is an at-will state. That means that your employer does not have to have a reason to separate from your employment. They can lay you off for any reason.
Right.
And so at will indicates that you have been laid off, not that you've been fired, and it would qualify you for unemployment benefits.
Right.
Now you were,
and I did apply for unemployment.
Right, but then they tell the unemployment office something
completely different than what they told Post.
Right.
So like I said, the book documents some of the variations and changes in the story. I will tell you, I've documented now 9 different versions.
Sure.
From the police chief's mouth,
yes,
to paper, to agencies that disqualified me based on, this is the reason we disqualified you. I'm sitting there going, oh, this is new. This is a new reason. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It has changed so many times. But I have audio of other city employees telling me that they were told I quit and I wasn't even fired.
That's so interesting.
It goes back and forth depending on who you talk to.
And if you had quit, then you would not have qualified for unemployment. Okay. Now, if that post investigator had never sent those 10 pages, would you have written the book at some point?
At some point, yes, but probably at the end of my career.
Not anytime. Not now.
Not in 2 weeks, where I was highly motivated to sit down in front of a computer and start typing.
Right.
And now, I'm very grateful to the editors, the primary editors who helped, who read this, who answered the phone calls in the middle of the night while I'm typing at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
Because I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
But from when I made the decision that I was writing this book to the time that I had a final draft copy was less than 2 weeks.
Wow, that's impressive. Even with 100, how many pages?
111.
111 pages. That's very impressive, because as you're going along, there's a lot of edits to be made. Now, so you wrote the book, you self-published. Now a publisher has actually picked it up, and it's not like you've
within 24 hours the publisher had picked it up, and they had put their front page cover on it.
Nice.
Nope, this is our book now. We own it, and they're like I said, there's a second edition coming.
Right.
More information.
Right.
But the what I'm seeing in a lot of the responses from people who read it is the shock that this is capable in America. This was so easily done.
And it's not like you sold no copy. You sold a number of copies. You're getting
yes, I'm getting monthly royalty checks,
and they expect the publisher expects this to actually do well, especially in the second edition, to do well as far as on the regular market, competing with others.
Understood.
Yeah, that's their expectation. Expectations are one thing,
right,
but
the conversations with the publishing agent, they are very enthusiastic that this is going to continue to sell well.
Very good. So just go through, if you could just give us some of the basic details of what you talk about in the book. If you give us, like if you were to give a 1-page summary of what the book was about.
It describes
from beginning to end.
It describes the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
It describes what I was going through, and it describes the event that led up to what happened that has been such a big issue.
Right.
You know, I've done multiple interviews about the city of Poland. When the police chief did an interview with a news agency and told them that they did not have a quota for citation, the amount of us that knew that was wrong, and I know of at least two of us that have come out and have done an interview with that news agency. I don't know if there are any others who have shown documented proof there is a quota at Poland. So I don't know why the police chief chose to openly lie like that and say, we don't have a quota, he doesn't do a quota. No, we were told to write 4 to 8 tickets every night. We were specifically told why. So when...
Well, he can come out and say there's a quota because then they lose their ability to collect the revenue, right?
Why even do the interview?
Well, that's a good point. Why do the interview?
Why put yourself out there when you know there's cops out there who are going to go, no, there's absolutely a quota.
Right. Is perhaps to save face.
And I mentioned this in the book.
Yes.
At the time, I actually, young officer,
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought he could order me to write tickets.
Oh, okay. Well, right.
I believe that a police chief could order me to do anything.
Sure.
Going into this event is when I finally started asking, hey, can I be ordered to do this? And they're going, God, no. What? No. Is your police chief ordering you to do that?
Right.
You tell me that's not happening.
And you're not bound by your oath to obey an unlawful order.
Right. So I have a philosophy now as a police officer.
Yes.
Oath over orders.
Sure. That's how it ought to be.
Oath over orders. I'm not going to violate someone's rights because you told me to.
Why do you think that?
But there are supervisors out there that believe, I tell you to do something, you have to do it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I can remember I had a supervisor one time try to tell me that he was giving me an unlawful order and I was to obey it.
Yeah. No.
And I thought, wait a minute, you're telling me that you know it's unlawful? No.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do it.
I've had bureau and division commanders at larger agencies tell me things like, well, I'm giving you an order. And if I tell you to go ID people, it doesn't matter if you have ARS or articulable reasonable suspicion or probable cause to ID them. I'm giving you an order. So because they're disobeying the order that I gave you to get their ID, then they're obstructing. And I'm going, yeah, I don't want to go to jail for you. So no, that's not how that's going to work.
Right. He is exposing himself massively to vicarious liability, but the liability primarily is still the officers.
Right. And that's the thing where supervisors, I think, around the nation do not understand vicarious liability. They think it means that if the officer does something, they're going to get in trouble. That has never occurred in the history of the United States. And no court in the land interprets vicarious liability like that. In fact, quite the opposite. Usually, if you look at most misconduct cases, the supervisor got in trouble for standing there with their hands in their pockets.
You're about to say something else. We won't go there. It's okay.
Yeah, with their
thumbs right.
Yeah.
They're seated inappropriately.
And we've seen that recently.
Right.
A supervisor is in massive amounts of trouble.
Right. So
more so than the cop. The cop just lost his job. The supervisor is now looking at jail time. About vicarious liability. It's like, no, it's not because the cop did something. What the cop did was wrong. And actually now we're finding out at this agency, the cop's getting his job back because they fired him incorrectly.
Right.
The supervisor is now going to go to jail because he thought he was in so much trouble that his brilliant decision was to lie.
Right. So the vicarious liability tends to go more towards a civil action versus them criminal or them. Yeah.
But when it does go criminal, it's usually that's when supervisors get locked up.
Right. So why do you think?
And we just saw that recently.
Oh,
I know there are. I do not know why. There are people out there who do not understand about the cameras.
Right.
Okay, if you don't understand, if you're a police officer and you don't understand how the cameras work, just leave it alone.
Right.
Just let it go. But when you intentionally take someone's face and shove it through a door,
right,
because they have a because they're filming.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand your argument for it's a secure facility. I get all that. Politely and firmly ask them to leave.
And if they're in a public place, they have a right to be.
They have a right to be there.
And they're participating in
into a door on the entrance to your headquarters.
Right.
And it's like that one was like, okay.
And this is a constitutionally protected activity as well. It's his First Amendment.
This is a division commander who doesn't know, and he's in more trouble than the officers are. But the officers got fired for not following the order to arrest the guy. And they're going, no, I'd rather be fired because I can get a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because once this hits YouTube, man, you're buying this guy a house, a car, a boat. And sure enough, now the city's buying this guy a house, a boat, a car, and they're finding out their division commander is going to jail over a felony assault. It's like, so, it's one of those things where it's like, and this has kind of gripped the nation because the guy filming was not the typical who you think it would be. So it's upset a lot of people because the guy filming was an African American, was a black man.
Right.
So that's upset a lot of people. That is irregardless.
Sure.
That wasn't doing anything illegal.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah.
So the optics are bad. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck all that out the door. That is a human being who was not doing anything illegal. What gave the division commander the idea to go out there and do that? Because he thought he was right. He got 3 cops fired over it.
Yeah. Wow.
That city can't hire those cops back fast enough. And I wouldn't want to go back there. And I understand why those guys went and did that news interview. We're not going back.
Yeah.
When they were asked, are you guys going to come? No.
Right.
We're leaving the state. It's like, whoa, what? Why are they leaving to go to another? And they are, from what I'm understanding, one of them has been. This didn't happen in Georgia. This happened in the Midwest.
Right.
They've been picked up in surrounding states.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah. And it's like, well, so the vicarious liability. This division commander thought that if he gives an order and it's not obeyed, he gets vicarious liability. No.
That's not how that works.
So, but at the time, the training that is given to police officers in this state very similar to that event that just happened.
Right.
And I use that to showcase police chiefs believe they can order you to do something. And I say it in the book.
Right.
I believed at the time I could be ordered to write a ticket. I thought that was real.
Right. Yeah. No, they cannot order you. They could try to fire you. It wouldn't be a great idea if it's something illegal.
Do my job.
Right.
They can order me to go out there.
They can issue the order, but you're not obligated to obey it. And if they let you go, well, then they're in trouble.
Right. If it's a fingerprintable offense and I don't make that arrest,
well, that's something different.
That's violation of my oath of office. That's malfeasance. What I'm saying is, people misconfuse contact quotas with ticket quotas. This was
right. Absolutely.
There are agencies out there that say, "Hey, look, we need you to make 10 business checks every night."
Yeah,
that's a contact quota.
It is
10 business checks. We have we're close to an area where we have a lot of break-in. So to show a presence, we're telling you every night you have to check 10 businesses.
Right.
That is not illegal.
Right. No, that's not illegal at all. You're not doing anything that limits somebody's freedom or violating a right or doing anything where you are
ordered to do my job.
You are providing a service that the department is there to provide.
But the misconception is where, well, he's being ordered to do your job, same with writing tickets.
No, that's not the same.
No, you can't take your discretion away. But at the time, I thought a police chief could take a discretion away.
Then why do you think Chief Wisdom continues to keep his job there in Poulin?
I have several theories, and none of them I can prove.
Okay. Well, don't get into something we can't prove because we don't want to. But I
have thought about that. Of like, why? No, if I was a city manager, I'd be going, dude, you're more trouble than you're worth.
Yeah.
You are out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something else going on, but I have no way to prove any of my theories, and really all it is just me thinking, oh, could it be this? Could it be that? And ultimately, the 5 minutes it takes me to do that, I come down to it doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. He did it, and they're keeping him employed.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite parts in the book, and this one's on page 66, and you say, Larry Wisnant was colloquially, let me start that paragraph over again. Larry Wisnant was colloquially known as a moron in the area. Despite his failures of policing in the past and his involvement in controversial case law, he had somehow convinced the city of Poulin to enable him as the police chief to continue his blunders in law enforcement. Now,
simple public record search will show you his case law. His name is on bad case law. And his testimony in that case law proves that statement.
right.
If you look up the dictionary meaning of moron, and then you go look at his testimony during the case law, you'll go, yep, that guy's a moron. It's kind of like when you meet someone on the street and you're talking to him,
Mhm.
you're going, oh, he seems intelligent. And then you get into it and you go, he's a moron.
So when you say that he was known in the area
Many people
as a moron, yeah, so
just
what kinds of people? Are you talking about?
About other agencies, other executives at other agencies,
Right.
people who are instructors, all warned me not to go work at Poland.
Okay. But you, when you went and interviewed and talked to them, yeah,
This guy's great. Like I
he
said,
talks a good game up front.
It's like when you meet someone on
Yeah.
the street and you're going, and then 20 minutes into, you're going, this guy's a moron.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years.
Right.
But he fits the textbook dictionary definition. He does moronic things. By definition, he is a moron.
Okay.
When it comes to policing.
So I keep having this picture in my mind of Roscoe P. Coltrane from the Dukes of Hazzard, who I think people would say that Roscoe was a moron. I'm assuming Larry's not quite as dumb as Roscoe P. Coltrane, but there's a reason that people like Boss Hogg keep people like Roscoe around, because they can do their bidding. Now, I'm not
fairly accurate.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have no way to prove it.
Yeah, no way to prove it. And we don't want to, I'm not going to say that that's the case there, but I have seen similar situations. And as long as someone is there to do the bidding of the city council or city manager or whoever, they are going to be allowed to keep their job no matter how much embarrassment they bring to the city overall.
Right. And I think that's what's happening here. But the reason I don't say that in the book, and the reason I'm not going to allege that, is because I can't prove it. What's in the book is what I can prove. And what I can prove is that if you go to Southwest Georgia and you ask about Larry Wisnant, other cops are going to roll their eyes and go, oh my God, that dude had his wife writing his reports for him at this agency. That dude did this at this agency. And that dude chased a dude into a barn at this agency. And that dude did this and this. And it's like, it's never ending.
Yeah.
As soon as I started doing research for this book, within 2 weeks, I had more public records available on Google. Didn't even need to talk to anybody. This guy went in front of district courts, Georgia Supreme Court. His name is on a lot of case law I'm like, wow, I wish I would have known that before I went to work for him.
Right. It occurs to me that one of the problems that we have when we have leaders like him in law enforcement are that they are able to get away with things that their officers can't get away with. If they do something inappropriate, who is there to send a report to post to have them investigated? What could be done, in your opinion, to help on a state level, let's say, to help safeguard against people like him from continuing to serve as chiefs in these small towns or big towns? Is there something that we could do? Some kind of extra training required or extra standard? Or
we've tried extra training. We've tried
for chiefs.
We've tried extra training for officers. We've tried extra training for chiefs. We've tried educating. We've tried governor's initiative. I would say at this point, the only thing that's going to work is labor representation.
Oh, that's
These officers
interesting.
are going to have some type of organization that's going to go, yeah, do whatever you want. We're going to make your life miserable. So if you're going to sit here and say, screw the union, you better have it 100%.
So what about if there were, so here's what comes to my mind.
Unions for police officers are illegal in the state.
Well, right.
We're not allowed to collectively
No, we can have, right. We can have,
association.
yes, an association, but we can't collectively bargain.
There's no teeth behind these organizations.
Right.
So if they actually have the ability to sit there and say, no, you can't just make up things. You can't make up your own rules. You can't have a city solicitor make up his own rules about how he interprets laws and completely just goes off the script from code section and case law.
Yeah.
If you have an organization like that saying, no, you can't do that, that a police chief would be less hesitant to, okay, well, I did do this. Doesn't sound like they're going to the DA's office. Okay, probably just let this go. See what happens. And then, they're leaving. They're going to another agency. Okay. All right. Because they're not going to go up against the union.
But, right. But what about this?
You have a police chief who knows he can scream at somebody with witnesses and say, you are under GBI investigation. You are under DA's office investigation. And then when those two officers go to cooperate with that, and now we know it was a fictitious investigation, and get fired within 2 days of doing that.
Okay.
That means that
all right.
He had power.
Right. Exactly. So what I'm thinking about is this: if any chief can initiate a post investigation on any officer in this department.
Well, according to Larry,
why is there
the Association of Chiefs of Police has a secret forum? Kid you not, has a secret forum where they get together and they talk about cops, and they have a blacklist, and you do not want to be on the blacklist. And I talk about it in the book because it's backed up with his own voice.
Well, okay, all right, but so back to the point I want to make is that why can we not have something with post that would trigger an automatic investigation into the chief? For example, why could two officers within a department not make a report to post that would then trigger an investigation into one of their supervisors?
Post isn't the one you want to go to. It'd be GBI.
Well, okay, I understand that this post is organized now with the issues that post has. They might not be, but they ought to be. In my opinion, post ought to be somebody that anybody could go to without investigate anybody without any bias. And it seems there's a lot of bias there right now, but there needs to be something like post where officers can go and make the report and have the investigation, because there needs to be an investigation into this guy.
And I don't think you're going to have that without a organization for the officers. So Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police, according to Larry Wisden, and by their own actions during the events chronicled in his book, prove his words true. Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police is the most powerful labor association in the state of Georgia. But they're not a union, but they act like one. Okay,
well,
so
if
they act like one, and Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police controls Georgia Post.
Right, they act kind of like.
Then the officers need their own.
With private business, we have antitrust laws that prohibit things, control over an industry being had behind the scenes.
That people comply with those laws.
Right.
But
so
make sure people complies with those laws. Usually, depending on the type of trust, it's either the Securities and Exchange Commission, or it's the Treasury Department.
So it just sounds to me like if we can't trust Post, then there needs to be either a dedicated division of the GBI, or there needs to be a separate organization, perhaps made up of officers who have never been chiefs who can investigate, or people who have proven their integrity because we can't have people investigating their friends.
Right.
You know?
And, one of the biggest issues that was brought up into this was about integrity. Um, for the last 3 years, because a police chief was able to say things, people genuinely did not believe me.
Right.
That is now reversing. You can't fix that.
Right.
You can't give me my 3 years back.
No, yeah. Where do you go to get your reputation back?
It's all the work I did, all the effort I put into my profession across 7 years. Where do I go to get my reputation back? There is no place.
Yeah.
You know, I have people have read this and have asked me, well, when is the state going to apologize for this? They're not.
No, they're not going to
They're
apologize.
never going to apologize. And here's the really crazy thing. I don't want to hear it. I don't want an apology from people who took the easy way out. At the tail end of this is hitting. People are calling Post, asking questions about this book. I'm hearing that details of this book are now being brought up in other events where they're going, hey, hold on, this happened here. This is proven.
Right.
We now have some questions.
So,
That it's created such a problem that instead of doing anything about it, the Post director just retired.
I was going to get into that. So
at his desk in one day and walked.
we've had some changes at Post recently.
Very recently.
And what was the timing of those changes in relation to the release of the book?
I published the book self-published. Nothing happened. Publisher put out a press release, and within 48 hours, suddenly he was retiring.
Okay, so the publisher.
That was the first press release. Then the publisher sent the book to several news agencies around the country with another press release.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I heard that he had cleaned out his desk and he wasn't going to be working past the end of the month. And that happened in the middle of the holiday season.
Wow. Okay.
And it was done very quietly, no ceremony. He apparently just decided he needed to spend more time with his family, or that is what I had heard from several officers who aren't active in law enforcement anymore, but they're still around. They're going, this is what we're hearing. So I Googled, and for the longest time, nothing was in the news until I finally found one article.
Okay.
In Valdosta State University today.
Oh, interesting. It occurs to me that generally somebody who's the head of an agency like that is not going to suddenly retire
just magically, yeah,
without some pressure from someplace up above.
And the timing of it is really odd to me. It's like you just in the middle of Christmas, and this
right.
Well, you don't know. He was the 2024 Chief of the Year. Plans had been made for him to make appearances as the Post director in 25 and 26. He was doing stuff with Guiley. He just decided in the middle of the Christmas season he was done.
Right. Yeah. So maybe.
And maybe that's what actually happened.
It could be. We don't know. Yeah.
But I do find it interesting. This gets published. News agencies start running around asking questions.
Right.
And then I hear that there is one officer who is mentioned in the book that didn't like it, and he made a threat that he was going to sue.
Okay, and he made the threat to the publisher, right?
The threat was made via Facebook, and I can't post anymore because he deleted it.
Okay,
from what I understand.
But didn't the publisher somehow contact him, or am I thinking of somebody else? No. Okay. But so he threatened, but he has no leg to stand on.
I think what more than likely happened is he actually went and talked to a lawyer, and the lawyer probably looked at the book and went, right. I'm not walking this into a courtroom.
Right.
No, I'm good. You here's your retainer back. We don't ever have to speak to this again. Is what I'm thinking.
Right. No matter how embarrassing the truth is not slander. It's not libel.
And he's got enough issues with this particular individual with the things he gave to the Post investigator.
Okay.
Some of the fantastical
weirdness
that this guy is on. I would have serious issues.
Was he from a South Georgia department, or was he from somewhere more Northeast Georgia?
Northeast Georgia.
Okay. Because this bled over, like you said, the bled over to other agencies. Do you talk about that in the book?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I do make the connections, but again, I keep it vague because I one of the things I cannot stand about law enforcement is that we are rumor mongers. Man, we are
right.
school children.
Yes.
It is so. I didn't want to get into the rumors, but I wanted to show, hey, this was said. It was said on audio, so I have to believe it. When I have a supervisor telling me something, and I got him on audio saying it,
Yes.
so I believe this is real. Why he said it.
Right.
I wasn't expecting the supervisors to do was to um, and it could have been that this post investigator lied about what he was told by these people. But in the 10 pages, he claims to have copies of emails, and he puts the text of them in the investigation notes of fantastical stuff.
Wow.
So just in case anyone ever reads any of these 10 pages, I want to make it very, very, very clear, 100%. None of the things that they said happened. At that point, I was wearing a body mic at all times, so every conversation I had with everyone at Hartwell was recorded.
Right.
So none of that was ever said. I was also never alone with any of them.
Correct.
So
right.
None of the events in those 10 pages were ever happened. The 2 write-ups that Hartwell claimed I received, I never received.
Right.
For those violations.
Right.
I did receive 2 documentations alleging that I had made an improper charge, which I found out later. I already knew it wasn't an improper charge, but I found out that they found out that wasn't an improper charge, and they probably shouldn't have documented that.
Right.
The other one is a clearly false statement because the person who wrote the documentation wasn't even there on work at shift that night when the event happened. So how's he documenting it?
Right.
So
you can't.
Yeah. But he felt necessary to turn me into some kind of a ninja assassin.
Wow.
And he actually said that to post.
Oh my gosh.
Investigator. I mean, if you ever read, I want everyone to understand the U.S. Army does not train its soldiers to infiltrate the population here in the United States and spy on you. That is a conspiracy theory, dude. I don't know how he's a police officer. So if anyone ever picked it up and read it, no, your intelligence services are not having people do that. A, B.
Well, okay. Let's be careful there because there are some evidence that some things are happening, but the Army doesn't train people to do that. The Army is not involved. The and that's something you can speak to with some authority.
Army does not send its soldiers to go become police officers to sneak around the Hartwell Police Department and put up secret cameras or bugs or whatever else this guy put in these emails. That really makes you wonder where his grip on reality is.
Exactly. Okay. Because I can just see in the comments people writing, going, well, the FBI and the churches in Virginia and blah blah blah. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
I'm talking. He specifically said that while I was in the Army, apparently I was pulled off the front lines and sent to spy on U.S. citizens. I'm going.
Wow.
Red flag laws exist.
That's right.
I don't think you need to have access to firearms, buddy. Where did
Okay.
you get that from? It's like, I mean, I'm reading it. One part of the 10 pages sounds like an Agatha Christie novel, and the other part sounds like a Ray Bradbury yarn.
Right.
I couldn't keep up.
Right. Wow. Okay, one more quote here from the book. Towards the end, you say, "This then will be the ultimate question to Georgia cops. Who will stand for the poor citizen if the police cannot even stand for themselves? What is the solution? Only the legislature can rein in power like this now. Only the General Assembly can protect the state of Georgia." What would you like to see the General Assembly do to help rectify this kind of thing to keep it from happening in the future?
I think there needs to be some changes in the laws that really restrict um, Georgia Post's ability to blanket an investigation the way they have. There also needs to be some some auditing done, where
Right.
every quarter, look, you need to prove what you're doing. You need to prove how far you've gone.
That's on 106. Sorry, I should have told you
No,
that.
no, no, it's okay. Right before that, I talk about the only protection against overbearing management is labor representation.
Yeah.
Um, there is something to be said for when one part of the element has more power than the other part. Um, you know, the police officer now has to think about feeding his family or doing the right thing. I've now learned if I try to do the right thing, I will not be able to feed my family. I now know this to be the case in Georgia.
Yeah.
So, as I'm carefully selecting my next agency, that is in the back of my brain. And I will be honest with you, there are agencies that they really want to hire you. No, I'm sorry, because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is no, you will obey. You will arrest that person. I don't care. Or no, you won't arrest that person. I don't care.
Right.
So, um, you know, if you don't mind me quoting from the book,
No, please go ahead.
right before I get to that part,
Hmm.
I talk about Paul Harvey. Most people know who
Oh,
Paul
yeah.
Harvey is.
Paul Harvey. Yes.
In his I don't know what you would call that, but his quick
He used to have a radio show and he
yeah,
would have,
and
yeah.
he talked about police officers. And in the middle of that, he
Hmm.
said that a police officer must know everything and not tell. He must know where all the sin is and not partake. Not to
Yeah.
disagree with Paul Harvey,
Hmm.
but, and I'll say this in the book, Paul Harvey was only partially correct on this. Police officer must tell. The public must know. And when using the proper channels does not work and the chain of command and state investigators refuse to do anything, then the officer must tell by any means necessary. The public must not have the trust shattered or learn that the common police officer is bribable for his job. Street cops are supposed to be above reproach in all aspects.
Yes.
So we should not be afraid of for our ability to feed our family because we angered some police chief or
Right.
his friends.
Yeah.
And we should not be afraid to tell. I understand that there are cops out there we never want to tell the public. Yes, there are some things we don't want to tell the public while we're in the middle of an investigation.
Yeah.
But once it's over, to show them this is what we did, this is how we did it, this is why we did the things we did.
Right.
That is a normal expectation among law enforcement in this country, and it has been there since 1775.
If
And how we know that is because the documentation from our side of that conflict, and when I say our, and from the continental side,
sure.
was so well articulated as to why we were doing this, why as a
Right.
nation.
Yes.
And I don't care if you're an immigrant or if you're not. You're a we now. If you're
Sure.
here and you're living in America, you're an American now.
Right.
Sucks to be you, like it or not. You're an American.
Yeah.
So now you're one of us.
Right.
Okay, you're talking about a document that was so transparent and exactly why they were doing it. Why? There was no question,
Right.
and they needed the world to understand.
Right.
So
And so,
that should be carried on here 200 plus years later. And for some reason, we've slipped back.
right.
Some of
The,
us have.
sure.
To where
And we see this on across all levels of government where people do things and we never learn the why.
we have entered an age of fraud, not
Yeah.
just in government, in sports, in finance.
And it
It
comes
is
at a
becoming normal.
and it comes at a time when information seems to be more readily available, so we're able to ask questions better. All this
That
leads
would require you to do work. And what I'm finding, two of the largest issues in the profession of law enforcement came to work here: laziness and lying.
right.
There are cops out there who are lazy.
Oh, sure.
You are
Yeah.
not going to get them to open a case file to save their life.
Right.
Okay, nothing against those guys. That doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they're not good at doing their job.
Right.
Doesn't mean they shouldn't ever be police.
Yeah.
Just means there are certain things they're not good at. Okay, well, that guy doesn't need to be an investigator. You need to keep
Sure.
him out on patrol.
Right.
But there's a misconception that every cop has the natural police instinct inside of them.
Oh, yeah. No, no,
No.
no, not at all. But I want to ask you this question because it seems to me that some who read this book might lose their faith in law enforcement in general. So, how can the public or how can the average reader who reads Blue Line Rogue, how can they maintain their trust and confidence in law enforcement?
I say it in the book, and I'll say it again. This is the exception.
Okay.
This is not the norm for your police.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry this happened. I'm so sorry that if you read this, as you read it, I apologize to the public on behalf of the professional law enforcement for these three individuals.
Yeah.
But I cannot fix that. What I can do is say, this is what happened. This is what they did. This is the decisions and the actions they chose to do.
Right.
Okay. The
Also, we have this too, I think, in
and I
just
think
in
there's a
general.
level of two. If this can be done to a police officer, John and Jane Q. Public don't stand a chance against people like that.
Right. And then true.
And I think
But
that's what's most scaring to people because
sure
I
it
do have
is.
people reach out.
Yeah.
And people I know,
Right.
after reading it, they're going, I'm now afraid of the cops in my town. And they live 4 states away. And they're going,
Yeah. Well,
I'm now sitting there looking at my own cops going, are you going to do that to me?
sure.
No, that
But
wasn't the intention of the book.
right. And the point that comes to my mind is that while these kinds of things grab our attention and they stay in the spotlight a while, and they should, because they say sunlight is the best
That's disinfectant.
disinfectant, and we want to expose corruption wherever we can. But it is the tiniest minority of what goes on in law enforcement.
Very tiny. We're talking less than 0.5% misfit the badge.
Right. So then that's the point that I hope that people understand, that in spite of what they're going to read here,
And just
you
because
have
a cop
to.
is ignorant doesn't mean he's criminal. This is not ignorance. This is criminal. These guys know what they're doing.
Right.
And then the way they did it tells you they're also ignorant.
Yeah.
So that's why I call him a moron, because not only is he engaging in criminality and he knows he's doing it, the way he tries to cover it up is so moronic. It's like, okay,
Right.
if you're going to engage in criminality, at least try to clean it up.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll give you another example. Baltimore Gun Trace Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were morons. They honestly believe they weren't going to get caught.
Well, how many criminals think they're going to get caught? And it happens.
There's no amount of police work I can do. Been doing this 7 years. Certified officer since 2018. There is no amount of police work I can do that will make up for the criminal making a mistake. And I have heard multiple judges. I have heard PAC instructors. PAC is the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia.
Yes.
I've heard multiple PAC instructors say, you only have to be lucky once. That guy has to be right every single time.
Yeah.
It's like the police work that we do is simply to document their mistake.
Right.
But when we do document it, and they happen to be in a uniform, the uniform doesn't negate the action.
Right.
And here, the uniform, the words police chief negated the action.
Yeah.
At a minimum, what can be proven: tampering with evidence, false statements in writing. And
at a minimum.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, and to this day I do not know why, for whatever reason, the post investigator not only got on board, but participated.
Yeah.
And that is clearly proven through audio conversations, which are recorded.
Right. Right.
It's his voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh, thank you. You know, it's, I'm so glad you wrote the book. I have still, distresses me that you went through all of this. And I do hope that people will buy the book, Blue Line Rogue.
You don't mind doing a shameless plug? It's available on Amazon right now.
Right.
It's as an ebook on Kindle or paperback. If you don't have Kindle, you can download the app.
Yeah.
The publisher is also putting it on Barnes and Noble, so it'll be on Nook soon, and it'll be available physically in bookstores. I don't know when.
Right.
But that is coming. But this is physical. You can order a physical copy of the book.
You can right there
on Amazon. I believe it's a little over $11 for a physical copy, and I think it's like just under $8 for an ebook.
Right.
It's a quick and easy read. I had family members read it. They said they did it in less than a few hours.
Yeah.
It's fast.
I just want to say one thing that's not related to this as we close out. I had somebody reach out to me yesterday who, through, it would appear, through some inadvertent actions of mine fairly early in my career, caused this person some distress and caused them to lose some faith in law enforcement. And I don't want to give their name because I don't have their permission to talk about it yet. But people make mistakes, and I've made mistakes, and I'd feel terrible. So I expressed this to him yesterday. I'm so glad he reached out. But my sincere apologies for things that I did which hurt someone else's trust and faith in law enforcement. Thank you, John, for being here, brother. Man, I'm so glad. I'm glad you wrote the book. Thank you for coming on the show one more time. And we'll probably follow this up in the future. If it's not about this, there'll be something else that we'll have a chance to talk about and maybe educate the public. Y'all, thanks for listening to us talk about this. Please go buy, one last shameless plug, please go buy you a copy or download to your Kindle, Blue Line Rogue by John Masters. Thank you.